very much advised.
No, I'll leave that alone. Anyways, here we go. Welcome to the bracket stage of the LIDX No Squoob Tournament, also known as no Wrong Warp, No Out of Bounds, No Save and Quit. As usual, in case you haven't missed it before, no Wrong Warp. Plain and simple, you can't Wrong Warp. Don't do things like a doghouse glitch. You can't use an entrance to take you to a different place than the developers originally intended. No Save and Quit's pretty self-explanatory. Do not save and quit. This also means that if you Death Warp, per tournament rules, you actually have to backtrack to the room you died in before progressing. And no out of bounds. Oh, go ahead.
We thought we'd clarify that Death Warp bit, because some of the runners who should sort of know that kind of forgot that the other day.
Oh, tell me that one later.
Yeah.
The other one, no out of bounds. It's kind of a weird definition. You cannot be greater than one tile away from a tile which is normally accessible. There's a reason it's complicated, more on that in D8.
It's quite difficult to explain.
Most players
it's quite difficult for us to understand. So yeah, they're very much neck and neck at the moment.
It'll be that way most of the race. There is quite a few portions that are RNG heavy or just luck dependent, or things like Horse Heads, which you have to devote a couple hours to skill to. Again, more on that.
Let's hope none of them get 10 blue ball Aghanim.
Let's hope both of them get 10 blue ball Aghanim.
Oh my god. Yeah, Aghanim, as I found out earlier today, can be a bit of a troll.
Again, more on that later. But first, the first piece of tech you're seeing is their movement. You're going to see this a lot throughout the run of players clipping in the walls. You can clip in, I believe it's 3 pixels, possibly 4, something like that. And that adds up over the course of a game if you do less movement. While you might think, oh, it's only a frame, it's only a pixel, if you do that on every screen, that's going to save you a couple minutes over the course of a run. So, you want to explain what's coming up?
Yeah, well, I can sort of explain Log Cave a bit. So you actually have to clip into this pit a little bit, and you can actually slice both of those crystals. So what they're coming up to now is Moblin Skip, and Moblin Skip is basically a damage boost. You don't actually skip the Moblin. I don't know why we call it Moblin Skip. But you basically need the Moblin to be looking up whilst you clip into this pit, and spicefather getting it quite quickly. Giuocob unfortunately falling in the hole the first time and the second time.
Another thing you saw spicefather getting Owl Skip immediately after, skipping the text from the owl by opening his pause menu on the frame. Oh no, Giuocob! Oh my gosh. I don't think I've seen the death on that screen before. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's nasty.
But anyways, open the pause menu on the frame after you open the chest, close it, open your save and quit menu, and then immediately move down and you can skip the owl text. Saves a couple seconds. Unfortunately, Giuocob not getting it here.
So, the world record in this holder is TGH. He's also in this tournament. With a 52.44. So Spice quite a way ahead already. So
that can change in an instant.
That Moblin Skip was really bad, and that wasn't even just bad RNG. That was pretty poor execution on Giuocob's part, to be honest, because you have to make sure you're clipped into the pit. Otherwise, the arrow will knock you into the pit, and you won't get across.
Now what you're seeing over on Spicefather's screen is stealing from the shop. So we steal that shovel. That way we can do 2 things. First of all, we can buy 2 sets of bombs. Second of all, we're also going to steal a bow and arrow because the shopkeeper hasn't learned to just ban us from the shop. Instead, he just kills us and thinks we'll learn our lesson. It's not like death is permanent in this game.
He thinks killing us is enough to stop us stealing again.
So the reason we do the theft there is because it would take a while to grind those rupees, and that bow is super overpowered early on, as you will see in Dungeon 1.
Fun fact, stealing from the shop is actually not a glitch. It's
it is
intended in the game. Like, it's obviously it's not the intended way. Like, but it is a way to do it. You can still in the game casually.
Hey, Cravoon, why is Spice killing these enemies that aren't in his way?
Well, he skipped one of them. Okay, so there's a power up in this game called Piece of Power. We're gonna just call it Pizza because pizza. So what this does is once you pick it up, it will increase your movement speed by an amount, and it will give you knockback on your weapon and extra damage. Now the knockback we don't care for. In fact, that's a bit of a hindrance. But anything that allows us to move quicker is obviously going to be used in speedrun. The reason why he's killing enemies is that this piece of power will drop every 30 enemies, and it will go away if you take 3 hits of damage off enemies, if you exit dungeons, enter dungeons, caves, etc. So we have a very tight piece of power routing based on kills to try and get the piece of power in the most optimal spots in the game. Now, I will sort of cover this a bit later because there is some RNG involved in piece of power routing a bit later.
Hey, nice feather on Spice's screen, so what's he gonna use that for?
You want me to explain super jumps?
Go for it!
Okay, so as Fan of Flame mentioned earlier, we can clip into walls on this game, and clipping into walls allows some quite extraordinary glitches as well as the time saves. One of these glitches is super jumps. So clipping into the wall tricks the game into thinking you're in that wall. So when you try and move off of it, it will try and sort of spit you out as if you're falling down a ledge. And that's sort of what super jumps does. What we do is we basically swing the sword, the fire rod, or use an arrow whilst we're jumping back against the wall.
Coming up to the first boss of D1, it's Trolldorm. Oh god.
Now, fun fact, mini bosses don't like 2 arrows.
Spice having no issues with Moldorm. If you get knocked into the pit, it resets the fight and you have to climb your way back up. He's also really easy to die to if you're not careful.
So I can't really tell if Giuocob's even catching up at this point. I mean, he's still quite far behind.
Honestly, it's not as far behind as I would have expected.
I mean,
and again, as you know, there's so many things that can change.
This could change at Rooster Skip. Heck,
this could
even
change well before.
This could change entering Dungeon 2.
Indeed. Bow Wow wants to take about a minute for Spice.
So...
Oh no! Giuocob falling into the pit. That resets the fight. Fun fact, if you hold your feather and up, you will actually immediately jump out of that pit.
So Giuocob's had some problems with Moldorm as of late. In the weekly race, he actually died to Moldorm. I think.
No, that was me.
Oh, he fell down again.
Might want to refresh the stream.
So you'll see Spice is actually killing more enemies in the forest here. And this is Piece of Power. So he basically wants Piece of Power in the first room that there's enemies in Dungeon 2. Now, we mentioned Piece of Power, we've not mentioned Guardian Acorns. Guardian Acorns we don't want because they give us a text box, and if you have a Guardian Acorn, it will prevent Piece of Power from dropping, but the counter for Piece of Power will still tick over, so you could miss a Piece of Power if you have an Acorn. Now, you get an Acorn drop every 12 enemies where you haven't taken damage consecutively. So as we saw on Spice, Acorn drop there, that's good, because that won't drop in Dungeon 2.
One thing you will see if the players accidentally pick up an Acorn, you will see them take those 3 hits of damage immediately, so that they're still able to get their Piece of Power if it drops on the next enemy.
There was a runner recently, Bamboo, who actually got an Acorn drop where he was supposed to get a Piece of Power in Dungeon 5. And he actually went back to get it by accident, and then killed an enemy in the middle of that, and we thought he'd lost a Piece of Power on that one enemy.
So over on Spice's screen, he's doing something called a flock clip, and you'll see this a couple times on the run. Again, clip yourselves into a wall, and when that text box appears, you can see it right there. You get pushed over by a pixel, and that's enough to just walk right on by the object. And now we wait on Bow Wow to troll us, eating flour.
So flock clips are named after a runner in the community called Flock, and he has found so many things that have broken this game. So Bow Wow actually not taking as long as he could have there to sort of close this race up a bit.
And Spice getting his piece of power right on cue at the beginning of Deep 2.
Getting trolled by that Stealther, so that's precisely where you want it. So the next piece of power he's going to want is going to be in the middle of Dungeon 3. See how Bow Wow does, Giuocob. Now something Bow Wow does is that he eats everything. He eats enemies, he eats cutscenes, he eats armors and gives you arrows for it.
Whoa. He eats cutscenes, did you say?
Yeah. We'll go over that more in detail a bit later when we actually see it. Also, Spice
also getting his power right on cue. So this is Ghost Skip. If you jump and swing your sword, they just go to the other side of the room and run away. That's about as much on that as I know. Pretty cool, and it saves time. So now, heading to the room to get the D2 boss key. So, fun fact about this room, and by this room I mean the room he's about to enter, you have to kill these enemies in a specific order, which is why this looks kind of weird. You have to kill the Bull's Voice, the Keese, and then the Stalfos. If you kill them in any other order, you have to reset the room.
I challenge anyone to find a runner that actually thinks this room is a good idea.
Gosh, not me.
As far as I can tell, every single runner in the entire community hates that room. Because the Stalfos is always a troll.
Always, like, he will get in your way.
Yeah, you tend to miss the Pole's Voice more often than you really should as well, sometimes.
So on Spice's screen, we are now fighting the Dungeon 2 boss, the Djinn. Now, you're meant to throw this bottle, I believe, 3 times casually, and then kill the actual genie. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to clip ourselves into a wall, common theme during this race, throw the bottle while clipped, and it will instantly break the bottle. And then one bomb and one bomb arrow later, and he is gone. Just like that.
Yeah, this is a boss with 2 quick kills, and if it's sort of not explained in advance, you'll miss both of them, because they happen in quick succession. So, actually maybe Giuocob is catching up slowly.
We're coming up to a part where he can really catch up with Spice struggles. The old Villa Skip.
Villa Skip, the most RNG, non-RNG trick in the game. People say it's RNG. It's it's really not RNG, but at the same time it is somewhat RNG. It's based on frame rule and subpixels.
The good old global frame rule.
Yeah, we won't explain all that. So what you're going to see on Spice's screen in about 30 seconds is he's going to try and pause buffer into a pit, and you actually won't hear the sound cue because we've got Giuocob's audio, but you'll hear it when Giuocob does it. He's actually going to be looking for the sound cue for when he falls down the pit, and this will signify that he has the frame where he can actually move down a screen.
Got it right there. 5th buffer. Not too bad. And that skips a very, very, very long side quest through Candlelit Castle and collecting all these things to get the D3 key. Instead, we just instantly get it. So if Giuocob can get, 1 or 2 buffer, that's a couple seconds right there he's going to gain. Now, fun fact, As a kid, I always really wanted to be able to put the key in the keyhole from the backside to the end of this dungeon. It turns out you can if you know what to do, and we're going to see that from both of these players. Again, flip yourself into the wall. Hey, there's a keyhole in the back. Who knew?
It's almost like we put our hand through the bars and turn it from behind. This game is coded so well.
One thing I don't think we mentioned, whenever we pick up an item, open the chest, enter a dungeon, enter a boss room, you'll see players either open up a save and quit menu or a pause menu or the map, just depending on the situation. This skips the text that would normally appear, whether it be describing the item, the dungeon name, or boss text, it will skip that, and over the course of a run, that saves a ton of time. Giuocob getting his little skip on much slower than Spicefather.
So Spice getting
Spice! No! Got the Guardian Acorn. He went and grabbed that acorn. So that's a time loss. He now has to take those 3 hits.
I thought he might, because he got one earlier, and that was sort of a bad place to get.
There's his piece of power, so had he not gotten rid of that acorn, piece of power would not have dropped.
Fun fact, piece of power can also quote-unquote drop on the mini-boss, but it will not actually drop. But the counter will tick over, so...
Now, one thing you just saw was called the Dongo Skip, and we'll be doing that twice in this dungeon. It's a very quick super jump, where you do a super jump, and then you kind of use your sword to clank off the Dodongo and redirect you over the wall. Now, if you're not careful and you don't do that quick enough, you can soft lock. Hopefully we don't see that from either of these players. Totally hasn't happened to anyone in this tournament.
Especially no one that's commentating.
Nope, nobody.
It hasn't happened to both of us, has it?
Did you soft lock on that?
I've soft locked on that during this tournament. Have you?
Let's not discuss this anymore. There's Giuocob's piece of power also right where he wants it.
It's okay, we'll reach something a bit later, which I've also soft-locked on.
So this is Vitreous. He's a bit of a pain, but pretty simple once you know what you're doing. Until he goes back together like that. Much easier with Piece of Power.
Well, funny you should say that, like, most runners prefer Piece of Power on this boss, but I sort of find it's easier because it makes splitting it quicker. Because when you have knockback, i.e. Piece of Power, it actually gives the boss sort of a few invincibility frames. And this, like, it's not a big deal on the Dungeon 3 boss, because, like, the second part of the kill is much quicker as a result.
Real quick, let's watch Spicefather. I think he's gonna go for something. Yes, he is, and he did not get it. Alright, never mind, more on that later. And by later, I mean in about 90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about bomb triggers in a bit. So yeah, about the knockback with Piece of Power, we'll actually see in Dungeon 5 that will be a much bigger issue, and they will actually lose it on purpose in Dungeon 5 before the boss. So what Spice is going towards now is a trick called bomb triggers. Final Flame, do you want to explain bomb triggers?
Sure. So, coming up, you're supposed to have an ocarina, I believe it is, to wake up this walrus who's in our way. We don't get that because that's slow. So what we're going to do is actually put a bomb down on this screen right here, the one before the walrus, and then we're going to pause and then transition while placing another bomb. And this confuses the game because you're not supposed to be able to put 2 bombs down that quickly. And for some reason, it plays whatever cutscene is available for that screen. In this case, it's waking up the walrus. Now, the thing with this trick is, if you're not careful, there are 2 different ways of soft blocking. The first is you move off the screen too early, in which case the walrus will still be there and you'll be locked out of your menu and all your controls, so you can't do anything. The other is if you try and leave the screen too late, a rabbit will actually appear on screen, and at that point you're done. You cannot do anything. Totally hasn't happened to somebody here in comments.
We missed Giuocob actually getting outskip at the end of Dungeon 3. So Spice just firing 2 arrows randomly
And he's getting
and the key appears.
Yeah.
Not sure what that's about.
Yeah.
So there's actually a mini boss there, and his hitbox is there before he even comes out. And he takes 2 hours to kill, so you never see him. But trust me, he's there. So interesting, both runners going for the side method. Skip.
I feel bad not mentioning. So back in D3, we got the best item in the game, the speed shoes. That is 100% their name, I promise.
They're the Pegasus boots, not to be confused with the Pegasus seeds.
So now we're heading to D4. Getting to D4 is a bit of a pain, because first you have to go all the way to where Lamble is to get the key. Then you have to go all the way to the D4 keyhole. And then it's another minute or two, more than a minute actually, at least 2, to get to actual D4. And if you forget any of those steps, yeah, I feel bad for you. Because that's a huge time loss.
I'm seeing some estimates on time in chat. Some people think it's going to be 56 to 58 time. Bear in mind, both these runners have actually had quite significant time losses already, with Spice having to get rid of an acorn and Giuocob obviously, what was it, 11 buffer Villa skip and dying to Moblin skip. So they're actually quite significantly behind where they would be.
So Spice coming up on, one of the most notorious tricks in the game, would you say? Definitely one of the most important.
Yeah, it is the most important, as in, if you fail this, there's actually something built into the game which automatically bans you permanently from all leaderboards regarding Lady X. So, this is obstacle skip. It saves half a second. If you fail it, you lose 2 seconds, and it happens twice in the run. And it's like
one of those, we all go for it. I've even paused to line it up.
It's like, we go for it just because it's swag, and now it's become such swag that you have to have it in a run. Like, you can't not have it in a run. So we'll have to see if Giuocob goes for it. I know he was practicing it earlier.
What was it, last night during the race? He spent a couple minutes practicing it?
Yeah, he practiced it after the weekly race.
Spice, that's alright, we don't need to read the text box, we can't read Japanese. So, and Spice coming up on he did. This is Dumb Jump 1. Spice getting it easily. That jump's more difficult than it looks. I think Giuocob
made it look easy.
Yes, Giuocob getting it on skill skip.
So, 2 out of 4 obstacle skips so far.
So, this jump sequence breaks the dungeon. You're not meant to do that. Flip yourself into the wall and press up at the right time and you're good. So, it skips a lot. And here is our favorite mini-boss. It's Cue Ball.
Who was it that messed up this mini-boss the other day?
I'm always messing it up.
Yeah, it's, So now, this mini-boss... so they're trying to get Piece of Power in Dungeon 5, and Bowers sort of making some RNG, making it difficult. Piece of Power can, in theory, drop on Cue Ball, but we won't know that until it doesn't drop in Dungeon 5. So that can be a real pain sometimes, because if it were to land on a mini-boss, it would actually roll over so that it wouldn't actually drop at all.
I do want to mention, Spice is now leaving Dungeon 4. We will be returning later to finish that. The reason being, if we were to finish it right now, we would have to do a long side quest involving a ghost, taking him home, and all that. However, if we actually get the power bracelet, the level 2 power bracelet in Dungeon 6, the flag is set so that we don't have to do that side quest. So it's much faster to just come back later. The Spice heading in Dungeon 5, and it's very important that we get Piece of Power right away in this dungeon. Reason being, we have a lot of walking to do in this dungeon, a lot of backtracking, a lot of killing, This dungeon can be a bit of a pain. It's probably the longest one on the run, or one of them. See if he gets a piece of power. Should drop in this room, really. There it is!
So that's precisely where he wants it. Now, what makes this dungeon even more difficult is it's a very long dungeon, so piece of power, like, this piece of power is the most important piece of power in the entire run. But, you remember earlier when I said if you take 3 hits of damage from enemies you lose piece of power? That is notoriously easy to do in this dungeon. Now, he will want to try and lose it near towards the end because of the boss. Oh, very nice Helmasaur room.
Indeed, those Helmasaurs are trolly as heck. You don't actually need to be behind them. When you hit them, you need to be facing the same direction of them. So, now fighting Master Stalfos for the first of 4 times. The first time we fight him, we need to hit him with 3 bombs, or using bomb arrows as well. Same for the 4th time. The 2nd and 3rd will only be using 2 bombs. And now we have to fight him in a specific order. He appears in 4 different rooms. If you appear in one of the rooms early, he will not appear, so this is why we have to do backtracking from.
It disappoints me that even if we found a way to get so they would drop, like, get so they would spawn in room 4 first, where he would drop the hook shot, we still wouldn't even be able to sequence break this dungeon because we'd still need the boss key.
Place taking 1 hit. Now he's got to keep that in mind for later that he's taking a hit, because if he takes another one, he cannot do a damage boost later on when going to get the boss key. That's true. Early hookshot would remove a dumb jump. Well, at least one of them. More on that in a couple seconds.
Yeah, like we're
I can't even say later.
Number 2.
There's a lot that goes on in this game.
Fun fact, there's actually 3 dumb jumps now. Last week there was only 2.
What's the 3rd?
The 3rd is in this dungeon, it's just before the boss.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, that's a dumb jump.
Dumb jump 2. Wow, Spice getting it very quickly first try. Nicely done. You're meant to have the hookshot for that room, but we skip it using the feather and boots and good lining up.
The game developers didn't seem to realize you can actually jump over 4 pit gaps. By using the pit's mechanics, where you won't fall instantly, you still have momentum and you can carry that down, and therefore exit the pit and go onto solid ground. And that's actually made easier with Piece of Power. So that's another reason why people want Piece of Power in this dungeon. It can definitely be done without Piece of Power. So, Spice...
I wouldn't... Why would... Oh. So, it's actually not necessarily a good thing that I take that Piece of Power up. Yeah, so... Go ahead and explain it.
He lost 1 Piece of Power, and that was quite early. But then he got the 2nd Piece of Power, which always drops in this dungeon. There's always a 2nd Piece of Power that drops, unless you still have Piece of Power. And at that point, he basically loses time from the text box, and he's going to lose the time having to lose this for the boss. So I don't think it's going to be quicker.
Yeah. The reason we lose this specific Piece of Power before the boss is because of that knockback effect we talked about earlier. Coming up is going to be Wall Snake, and ideally we want to 2-cycle him, which is getting 4 to 5 hits whenever we pull him out of the wall, to get 8 total. With the knockback, it makes that much more difficult.
They say there's only 1 runner in the world that can do this 2-cycle with Piece of Power, and that is Zorlak 7, who is a human task, basically. So yeah,
you can see him taking some intentional damage again to lose it. Good call.
So, this is dumb jump number 3, except he's not even doing the... Oh, he did do the dumb jump bit of it.
I was not expecting that.
Well, that's gutsy.
That's the first time I've seen someone do it that way. Couple different ways you can do that. You can do it using the boots and jumping across the pit. You can also use a hook shot facing the other way to pull yourself over twice. So this is Wall Snake. He can be a bit of a pain in 2-cycle, but I think Spice will get it here. Yep. Nicely done.
So there's actually quite a small window to hit that boss. And you have to land 4 hits, and that's made much harder with invincibility frames. So,
Giuocob's still not terribly far behind.
I would say that he's really catching up. I think Spice lost quite a bit of time with that second piece of power.
There's so many things that could change in a moment for either of these players. Like that, not getting Wall Snake pulled out first try.
Yeah, Giuocob getting some quite bad luck.
Yeah, he got the 3-cycle, so that's not too terrible. It's a bit unfortunate, but he can recover from that. So now we're going to be heading to get the Dungeon 6 key, which is hidden in the Armos Maze. Now, the Armos Maze is a couple of things. It's a great source for arrow refills, providing Bow Wow is a bit hungry and eats things. It's also a place where, if you're not careful, you can take a lot of damage. There's a lot of Armos in the way, a lot of Zols everywhere. Stupid bomb berries like that.
You can actually manipulate Bow Wow by how you enter a room to make him eat certain things. And there are some things in the Almost Maze that everyone does, even people that don't even realize they're doing it. And it actually manipulates Bow Wow to eat certain enemies. So the arrow refills are really nice, because there's really no arrow refills until halfway through Dungeon 6, and arrows are very tight in this game. As are bombs, actually.
You're seeing boot strats here on the Armos Knight. A couple different ways you can do this boss. This is the fastest. You can also use a shovel if you're lazy. You can use a feather to jump before he hits the ground. If he hits the ground and you're on the ground, you will be stunned. And if that's the case, they'll probably walk over to you and give you a couple of hits.
Everyone has a different way of doing boot strats. It's just based on what works for a different runner. So, Spice is going to get a manip in this next screen. There we are. That one's always an arrow, and that's based on how you enter the room.
Fun fact, it's not always an arrow. It can be a piece of power. That happened to me.
I'm not even sure how you managed that.
What can I say? I'm one of a kind. I got it in the Armos Maze. I got it in the Armos Maze 2 races in a row. And
I'm not sure
both
how
of them may have died to Voldorm.
Armos Maze.
Well, watch my VODs and you'll see. So coming up to something we referenced earlier. So watch Spice's screen, specifically Bow Wow.
I thought you meant the Zorlex pit.
There we go. Took him a moment. Bow Wow just ate the cutscene. That's a thing in this. So you want to explain why that works?
I don't actually know why it works, to be fair. I don't do it.
So, I don't 100% know, but the cutscenes are basically stored as sprites. And what we did there, we threw a bomb arrow, I assume to move the sprite and manipulate it in range of Bow Wow. And Bow Wow eats things, so that's one of the things he can eat, because it's a sprite. And those cutscenes will drop pieces of heart. They can drop piece of power. I almost had that happen the other day.
Oh yeah, the Dungeon 7 one, I've seen that drop piece of power so many times.
So,
how does a cutscene taste?
Tell me. So that's the level 2 power bracelet. If you wrote down notes, you'll remember that now we can go finish D4 and not have to worry about the ghost side quest.
So, Spice is going to do quite a cool trick here that you won't actually see. But trust me, he's doing it. he's actually using an invincibility glitch here, where he actually hookshot it when he was right next to that pot. And if you hookshot when you're next to something, you will actually gain invincibility for the rest of that screen. So that's what he did there.
Until you do another action like use a hookshot.
Yeah. Like, that's something we have to explain, because honestly you don't see how that works. Like, you just see him not taking damage, you're like, what? These hitboxes? It's actually something he did to cause that.
So this is a bit of parkour. There is a reason for that, and that's this super jump right there. It lines us up perfectly for that without having to walk up more, kill more enemies, and then have to walk back down. Just a bit quicker. So,
this is another flop clip, and now he's going to do another risky super jump. Now, this super jump can soft lock. There's sort of a window of pixels to get it. And some runners do have difficulty getting it quickly, so Spice took a few seconds there to line up properly, and he managed to get it.
As we said, if you're not careful, you can soft lock there.
Yeah, if you're too high, you'll end up stuck in the water and there's no way out.
So, this is probably the part of the game that takes the most skill. This is horse heads. You need to throw them and have them both land upright. And it's totally not random at all. Spice getting a second try.
Spice made it look like it wasn't random.
I swear, every time I commentate a race, it's like, first try, second try. That's not realistic.
Yeah, horse heads are... I think they're 1 in 4, aren't they?
You have a 1 in 4 chance. You need them both land upright, and it's 50-50 on that. And now coming up to the D6 boss, Facade, and we're going to get a couple hits in, once again, before he's even there. That's 3 quick bombs, now we only need 2 more while dodging flying tiles. Giuocob getting 3rd try, horse heads. So you didn't lose too much time compared to Spice there.
We have gone through so many iterations with this run, and all these optimizations, and horse heads is something that keeps going in and out, in and out, in and out of this route. It's quite funny. We just can't get rid of it.
So you might remember earlier leaving D3. Spice went for a bomb trigger that we said, oh, never mind, he didn't get it. I think he might go for it again, leaving this dungeon. And what that does is it skips the cutscene of the owl appearing, and you only get the text. So it saves you a couple seconds.
So, Giuocob is actually really, really catching up. It's quite spectacular that he's managed to recover this well from the start of his run.
Spice getting that bomb trigger. And now we're going to head back to Dungeon 4. Finish that up.
Shoutouts to Seabass. Maybe you can explain in chat what Out of Bounds is. He's the one that made the rule set.
Yeah, thanks. Every time I explain it, I go, God, I hope I'm doing this right.
Yes, Seabass is a legend in our community.
Giuocob, I don't know if he went for the bomb trigger. If he did, he didn't get it. Not a big deal, it does lose you a couple seconds. We'll see if that bites him later. So here we are, Dungeon 4. It doesn't take too long to finish this up. We got another pretty neat super jump coming up, similar to Dongo Skip, where we're going to do a super jump to clank this time off of a pea-hat.
Now, this does require some timing. You actually have to wait a bit. Like, you have to wait until the pea-hat goes into the air. So that's what Spice did.
And now they didn't fully think this through. There's the boss key. We're going to transition 2 screens or 3 screens, and there's the boss room for Cravoon's favorite, anglerfish.
This boss, well, fun fact, you can't hookshot down.
You can also miss with your bomb arrows.
I think at some point everyone has missed bomb arrows on this boss.
It's actually a pretty simple fight. 3 bomb arrows or a spin slash and 2 bomb arrows, and he's done down for the count. The biggest thing is you don't want to do your bomb arrows too quick. If you do, you'll only get the arrow because there's another bomb on screen. You can't put down the bomb. I think that's when things typically go wrong.
I think that might have gone wrong with mine, to be honest.
Carvoon and the anglerfish have a history.
So does Bamboo, and he's in the chat.
So now we're going to be heading first. We're doing some backtracking. We're going to do our second obstacle skip. And then we're going to do probably the most difficult trick of this run. You want to explain that one?
Well, okay. So, Rooster Skip, if there was one trick which is iconic in this run and in this game, it would be Rooster Skip. Rooster Skip is what we call a hookshot jump. Well, it's a double hookshot jump. So when we are on a pit and we shoot out the hookshot, when it's coming back, there is a point where we have one frame where we can actually do an input like a jump out. So I'm not sure if any of them are going to do it unbuffered. There is a buffered way to get this, but it is frame rule dependent, I think. But yeah, if any of them do it unbuffered, it's basically frame perfect. Two frame perfects in a row.
It can save a lot of time if done right. However, the penalty for missing this is about 30 seconds of backtracking. Because you don't just fall into a pit and come back and start at the room. You fall in a pit and go way out of the cave to the waterfall. Here we
Also,
go.
fun fact, the hookshot can hit Bow Wow.
Oh, and that ruins it every time.
Yeah, and that
So
really
Spice choosing to do it buffered, probably a smart call. Oh, he needs to get this
especially
first
with
try.
Bow Wow there,
Oh, look at his positioning.
yeah. That might. Oh,
Nicely done.
ooh, I thought he had the bad frame.
If he had gotten the bad frame, I think he would have instantly fallen in.
So yeah, that's a pretty special glitch. It's very high risk. It used to be that, like, it used to be in a really, really old brute where third try was the same as getting the rooster, but because we do bomb triggers, we don't actually get the ocarina now. Which means
Giuocob doing unbuffered. Nice, he gets it. That caught him up quite a bit.
So Rooster Skip is now mandatory in this current route.
It sucks.
So yeah, that Giuocob will have made up quite a bit of time there.
Oh, nice piece of power by Giuocob. How about leaving an enemy on the cliff above?
So each opening the menu or buffer takes up about 2 seconds, and that really adds up when you're doing something buffered.
Yeah, we didn't really talk much about menuing. We'll have to discuss that. We'll talk about that during D8, because we've got a lot to talk right here. First of all, another cutscene by Bow Wow.
There's nothing to talk about in D8 anyway.
Yes, that's why I said D8. So D7 casually is very long. You gotta grab that big ball, throw it at pillars. We're not doing that. We're going to break this dungeon severely. To the point it's probably my favorite.
Dungeon 7 casually is so long. Dungeon 7 in the speedrun is so short. So we're going to use bomb triggers and super jumps to break everything in this dungeon. Fun fact, you have to kill that green soul, otherwise this first super jump will not work.
So spice selecting and do it on the transitions. There's two different ways you can do these bomb triggers. You can do it on the transitions. Nice. That room's probably the hardest one to do on transition. Alternatively, in the first 3 rooms, you can use those pits. And if you drop the bombs within 4 frames of each other, you'll get it that way. And you can also buffer these, but as we mentioned, that takes a lot of time. So that was still pretty quick by spicefather.
You'll notice Spice didn't use bomb arrows on the wall. Now the reason for this is, if you use an arrow in the same dungeon or in the overworld, you cannot actually bomb trigger. It actually completely disables bomb triggers until you enter a dungeon, enter a cave, or re-enter the overworld. And I'm not really sure anyone knows why that is.
So, real quick, Spicefather, going for an RNG-dependent trick called Goomba Surf. This is a bit of a pain. You want to clip yourself one pixel into this wall, hope the Goomba moves right, and you can do a super jump, land on him, and just move on to the stage above. Alternatively, you can go about 15 seconds out of the way to do another P-Hat super jump. But as I said, that's about 15 seconds out of the way, so optimally, Goomba Surf is much quicker. Now on the Evil Eagle, and we're going to break that boss. And over on Giuocob's screen, you'll see that P-Hat super jump.
So, this boss is actually quite difficult. Well, this can be quite difficult for newer runners and people unexperienced with the bombs. There's a timing to this boss with using bombs.
It's not bad once you get used to it. Casually, that boss is such a pain.
Like, honestly, it has to become muscle memory until it's good.
Yeah.
So, Spice getting it without any issues, and Giuocob sort of catching up. I want to say Spice gained some time by Goomba Surf.
He did. Now, leaving D7, we're going to be walking down, and you're meant to just fall into a pit, and it'll kind of flush you down below the cliffs back by D4 entrance. But if we buffer the save and quit menu on the screen transition above the pit, right here, we actually regain control and can move down over the pit. And that saves a couple minutes.
Now, at this point, the difference between using safer or more risky strats will actually matter. So, by Spice doing the Goomba Surf, he's actually saved quite a bit of time on Giuocob. And that could make a difference. This looks like it might come down to the final boss.
Indeed. Now, first up, we gotta skip Marin. If you get too close to her, it will start a cutscene that lasts like 45 seconds to a minute. We don't want to do that. We're just gonna leave her hanging.
Put it this way: if anyone touches her in a race, they've lost.
Indeed.
But it's like it's such a long cutscene. It's like first you talk to her, and then Taran comes along. You talk to Taran. Taran goes, and you have to talk to Marin again. Marin goes, and then to add insult to injury, the owl comes and starts talking to you as well.
Indeed. So, coming up on another skip called Flame Skip. No, it's not named after me. We were meant to get the Mirror Shield in D7 to get through this flame. We didn't. But it turns out if you clip yourself into the wall, as Spice did not do there, glad he caught that, and speeds you up, you could just bypass the flame, only taking ideally one hit of damage. And now we have another bomb trigger to do to open Dungeon 8.
Wait, is
Once
it?
again,
Okay. So, that moblin has to die before you can bomb trigger this.
oh, and by the way, this boss doesn't have a hitbox. We're in D8.
As Giuocob says, he's not real.
So D8 is a bit of a maze. However, because we know where some of the bombable walls are, we're able to skip a large portion of it just by using bomb arrows. Oh, Spice!
Oh, Spice going for
What?
lava swim. We
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
this for a while. So, what he did there, that's quite a weird input. It's using a trick called Jesus jumping, which we'll see a bit later as well. And whilst you're Jesus jumping, if you use a sword to transition, you get put into a lava swim state. I'm not sure we've maybe seen that once in this tournament so far.
Yeah, I don't think I had seen it yet. So you'll probably watch Giuocob do what we've been doing. Yes.
Was not expecting that.
So coming up on Blano, and if you remember that really annoying out-of-bounds explanation, that room right there is why it exists.
You can skip Blano.
Yes, you can do super jumps to skip him. However, it puts you landing on a tile that, while it looks like you can stand on it, there is no way to access. Because it's greater than one tile away from the tiles that you can normally access, is considered out of bounds.
So, Giuocob having quite a bad room there, trying to do a sideways block push, and he's lost another few seconds. No one going for the P-Hat clip. Shame, that P-Hat clip is so swag. The P-Hat bunk. So, were we going to talk about menus during this?
Yes, you might want to do that quickly while we fight Cue Ball again.
Okay, so menus. Important in this game. Take 2 seconds to do a menu. You want to minimize the amount of menus. Everyone's got a menu route. They've got their items in a specific place that they've got in muscle memory. Bam, done. Okay, that's menus.
Good job.
That's like the quick explanation.
Spice is now on the room that everyone hates. Because if you mess it up, you have to reset the room.
This is an unusual method. I've not seen someone do this pattern before.
Hey, it works.
It worked.
There's so many different patterns you can do. It's just up to whatever feels comfortable for you. So, and coming up on a trick that Cravone mentioned earlier, Jesus jumping. And that is, if you pause on the frame where you have the splash particles from water or lava, you'll actually get pushed down 1 pixel into the wall, which clips us into the wall and allows us to do a super jump straight to the boss door.
Convenient.
And now it's Hothead.
So, fun fact, you can soft lock, well, no, not soft lock, because you actually can still kill the boss. You can get the boss stuck on the lava. And we call that a disclude.
Well done by Spice.
So, is Spice going to get the most important thing in the run?
Yeah, I know we talked about obstacle skip. That's second to this.
Yeah, this is more important. If he doesn't get this, he's banned.
He went for it. There it is.
Oh yes, okay, so that's a graphical glitch which we as a community appreciate, put it that way.
No way.
Let's see if Giuocob gets it. So, now Spice is heading to the Windfish Egg. So there is actually going to be another bomb. I was going to say final bomb trigger. It's not even the final bomb trigger.
It's not.
So
I always want to call it that, though.
So what he's going to do is he's going to play 4 instruments through the use of bombs. Sounds legit. Like, mayonnaise isn't an instrument, but bombs are.
I like to think of it as he's playing La Bamba.
So Giuocob's not going
for Los Lobos. Oh, wow. Yeah, Giuocob automatically should lose.
Giuocob disqualified. Not really. I should clarify that. Like, we don't actually mean he's actually disqualified.
We wish, but we can't.
We wish, yeah. So, yeah, so we didn't actually explain like the egg pattern. So when you do this game casually, normally you get the magnifying glass, you read a book in the library, and it tells you the pattern to do this egg. Now, reading that book is what actually triggers the pattern to be generated. Prior to reading that book, which we never actually read in the speedrun, there is a default pattern. And this default pattern is the same every single time. Because we didn't read the book, we know what this pattern is, and we're able to navigate the egg. Now, there's going to be a bomb trigger entering the room, which Spice is going to try and do. This will skip the text, the opening text of the boss, and then he's going to try and do a quick kill on the blob using a pixel.
He doesn't
RNG.
get it. That's
He doesn't get the.
At least
Doesn't
now
know
we
the
get
backup.
we now get boss music. Because if you get the bomb trigger, you get no music. I have a feeling he'll know, but we'll see.
Do you want to explain Aghanim?
Aghanim, let's do Blob first. So we're gonna hope to get a quick kill here.
Blob's RNG, by the way.
He did not get it.
Well, he got 1. He didn't get all 3, so he's had to switch to powder.
So Aghanim, it works just like Link to the Past. the first 2 balls generated are guaranteed to be yellow, which is what we want. After that, it's 50-50, it's random, and we need 2 more. So hopefully we don't get any blue balls.
What's different between this and A Link to the Past is in A Link to the Past, there's a maximum amount of blue balls you can get. In Link's Awakening DX, there isn't. The most we've ever seen, I think, is 17 from 2 different runners.
Giuocob not getting the quick kill, but he did get the bomb trigger. So that catches him up a bit.
Spice getting 1 blue ball so far, and 1 yellow.
Both players now on Aghanim. That's how close this is.
All Spice getting 2. So a blue ball is worth 8 seconds of loss. Oh,
3.
Spice getting a 3rd. Oh, this could be a big upset here.
4. This could be Giuocob's chance to catch up.
My God. Well, there's also another big part of RNG right at the death of the run.
Giuocob's 8 seconds behind.
So Spice finally getting it. Don't drop the Moldon quick kill because the Moldon quick kill will lose you about 20 seconds if you drop it. So Giuocob getting 2 blue balls.
That was Ganon.
Imagine if
Hey,
they get the
remember
same
Landmola from earlier? There was Landmola. He's gone. On to Deathel.
Giuocob getting 2 blue balls. I don't see Spice's RNG being bad enough to where he wouldn't.
So we need to hit Deathel with 16 arrows, but we need him to open his eyes and cooperate. Open his eye, I should say.
So you can actually use you can actually land 4 arrows per cycle. Oh, he missed 1, so he has to do 2 more cycles.
Huge.
And he's not opening. he's not opening for either of them.
Please.
Oh, Spice needs 1 more cycle.
There it is.
Spice got it.
GG.
Wow, that is close, and I believe that's going to be a PB for Spice as well. Man, that is one hell of a close race. So,
Indeed.
Spice finishing with an SRL time of 57.02. That's actually a 16-second PB for him. Giuocob getting a 57.26. And I said that before he's actually finished on the...
We have delay, remember that.
Yeah, I was looking in the SRL channel.
That was a close one. GG to both players. That could have gone either way. So we'll see about getting these players here in for an interview. Looks like Spice will be in a minute.
I have to say, Sparasta got that spot on.
Indeed, he confirms is a PB by 16 seconds. And mind you, that's how many blue balls? And horrible death energy? Wow.
He can definitely save quite a lot of time as well.
Indeed.
And I'll jump in here then.
Welcome, Giuocob.
Hi.
GG, you kept that race pretty close.
Like, we thought you were gonna pip it there because
I don't handle tilt very well. It turns out. The tilt snowballed pretty hard at the beginning.
That was rough to watch.
Yeah.
You were catching up very much like through that. In fact, you were both on Aghanim at exactly the same time because Spice got 4 blue balls, and honestly, we thought
we just left at the same time.
Is this when Giuocob's gonna win the race?
Yeah, Deathel wasn't very nice to me.
You also got 2
nice
blue balls.
I got 2. Yeah, so I got better blue balls than he did. So, and he beats out. I'm sure he was ahead of me the whole time.
Congratulations, Spice, on your victory. Yeah, he was ahead of you pretty much from Moblin on.
Moblin Skip lost you the race, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hey, congrats on the PB.
Man. And yeah, it sucks to hear about the Moblin Skip.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah, I was watching chat, and that was just.
I felt really I was down a minute. How far was I down? Dungeon 1 split 1 minute 11 seconds.
Someone said like a minute and a half.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
Villa Skip as well. I think he had 11 buffers. Giuocob.
14.
14. Wow,
Man.
that's insane.
Well, I mean, that was my fault too. I paused too early, so that was not all of the game.
No, just playing the game.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, Spice, that's PB by 16 seconds, I believe.
Yeah. I was hoping for like breaking that minute barrier down to 56, but I'll have to keep running the game some more, I guess.
Well, you managed this with 4 blue balls and with having to lose an acorn in Dungeon 3, having to lose a second piece of power in Dungeon 5.
Wait, did the acorn eat your piece of power?
Yeah, it
That's
appeared
atrocious.
in the Zol room, the 4 red ones.
Oh, you got the
So I
piece
had
of power
to
in the
go
same
back to
room, too.
Stalfos and take
Oh,
some
okay.
damage. Yeah. I'm used to acorns though. They're fun.
So,
Can't die. I
tell
could
me
use an
about
acorn in Moblin Skiff.
your second piece of power in Dungeon 5, Spice. Because you lost piece of power in the same room, and then one dropped, and this was like on your way to Master Stalfos 4.
Yeah, I really sucked at that room. That was just terrible. But then I saw it and I just sort of grabbed a reaction early, and I was just dying laughing entirely on my way to Stalfos. Like,
Because, like, we thought that probably lost you time, but honestly, I don't even know how much it would have lost you, if any.
well, I mean, it makes you go 25% faster. So I mean, like in 1 second of walking, or 4 seconds of walking, you save 1 second or something like that.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty significant.
I had a good amount of walking time, so I think it did end up being a little faster. But it would have been way faster just, not lose in the first place.
Also, I think both of you got Rooster Skip first try, didn't you?
I did,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I buffered. I saw a chat that you didn't, and that gained you a bit of time over me.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Then in Dungeon 7, Spice, you did Goomba Surf, and Giuocob went for the P-Hat Punk.
Oh no.
And you actually saved quite a bit of time on him there as well.
Yeah, that's... As soon as I can stomach Goomba Surf, I'll start doing it.
Yeah, I also have to say for Spice, like, we enjoyed the lava swim,
Yeah, it's
and I think chat did as well. I don't think we really expected you to do it.
yeah, it's not something that I've really done in a race yet. It's just like I saw Dragon doing it in his race, and I realized like because I wanted to do it for such a long time, and I thought that it was inconsistent. But I think as Spiraster told me how you can just slash while you transition, it's 100%. So with that new knowledge, I was not backing down from it. It's just so much more swag.
Well, this is a very close race.
Hmm.
Like, obviously it was catcher for Giuocob. He was down a minute and a half at one point. But, like, all through the run, we were seeing Giuocob getting slowly closer and closer. And, like, it was getting to the point where you were going to be neck and neck on the final boss.
I'm just glad it's not like an hour 10 run then. Because if he'd had more time, he would have definitely taken it over.
Alright, any closing thoughts?
I made a prediction on Challenge that I would win this race, and that was a joke. And I'm sorry.
I think you already blew my bracket.
Yeah, I think you've destroyed my prediction as well, unfortunately.
I actually looked through them just out of curiosity, and I think only 2 other people actually had faith in me. Or they guessed randomly and picked me.
I was so tempted to put Giuocob to win this.
The tournament?
Like, to win the
That would-
tournament.
That would be a bold prediction.
I'm so glad I didn't go that far now.
Yeah, the next round's the real hurdle for you.
Yeah, you're gonna be either against TGH or Alpha 5.
Yeah, one or the other.
I mean, who knows? Each can
How biased are we allowed to be
soft lock
here?
them over skip.
Yeah, for that race, I'm gonna be real. I'm racing against myself. Like I TGH can have a shit run and still get a 54.
I haven't seen TDS get over a 54 in a very long time.
I mean, the thing is, things can happen. He could softlock in D3.
He could.
Anything could happen.
Alright, I saw you out there, TGH. Go ahead and just make my day, please. I'd love to make it to semis.
Let's start praying to Aghanim now. He's gonna need a lot of blood sacrifices.
Imagine all the predictions you'd ruin. Isn't that worth it?
TGH was in chat earlier on as well. Trolling a bit.
Alright. Well, I think that's everything for us. So we'll talk about what's coming up. Tonight on Speed Gaming, twitch.tv/Speed Gaming, where you are at right now, starting at 8:30, Super Mario Bros. 1 Chase for the Record, and that goes up till midnight. While over on Speed Gaming 2, starting at 10 p.m., they have a link to the past randomizer. I don't know the details of that. In terms of more LADX, we have plenty of matches for you this week. Just talking about the next one will be tomorrow on Speed Gaming at 1:30 Eastern, and that is Xander versus Spirister. Once again, should be another close race.
That's going to be very close. Their PBs are their PBs are almost identical.
Indeed, and as I said, we have plenty more races during this week, so be sure to check the Speed Gaming schedule and get that pulled up. There it is. But that's it for us, so thank you to everybody. Thank you, Feasel, Speed Gaming, putting this together, all the organizers. We will be back later this week. That's all I've got. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Leah.